Welcome everybody to another great interview on the A.I.P channel where anything is possible. We had a little technical issue on the begin at the very end. We lost the last part of it. We had a very good discussion with Dennis Brennan, the author of DC Swamp Strikes Back, the Aaron Burr, Donald Trump, and their similar battles. So very great discussion. I'm gonna have links to all his stuff. Please check out his book. Please check him out on the Facebook. Great man from Chi-Town. And like I said, we lost the last little bit. I was able to save kind of the last part of our conversation. It made it make sense, I guess. But please enjoy. And as always, keep on keeping on. Welcome everybody back to the A.I.P channel where anything is possible. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Dennis Brennan. We appreciate you coming on here, and if you would just tell the listeners a little about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Ricky. I really appreciate it. Happy to join you. I'm from Chicago, or the Chicago area, I should say. We say Chicago; it's the suburbs. Um, I don't, I don't know if I'd want to live in the city right now, but I've written a book called "DC Swamp Strikes Back." Aaron Burr, Donald Trump, and their similar battles. I'm an attorney for over 30 years, former journalist. I've held small political offices, school boards, and municipal, township here. So that's the background. I've been involved in politics and journalism and law my whole life. And it kind of plays out in the book as I analyze, the historical comparisons between Aaron Burr and Donald Trump.
Nice, nice. Just to give the folks an idea, just as kind of, what are some basic, comparisons like, that you can, the easy ones to throw out there.
Yeah,
Uh,
they both suffered from lawfare. A lot of people when they think about Aaron Burr, I think anybody who's lived during the last 10 years knows Donald Trump, or they think they do. Right? We've heard so much about him. We feel like he's either part of the family or the guy you want to punch in the face. So wherever you stand on that, you think you know him and you've got your idea. Aaron Burr, my guess is most people have the same understanding that I probably had. He's a guy who had a duel with Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton died as a result of the duel. But we might forget Aaron Burr was a vice president. He went to Washington kind of like Trump, a little naively the first time, thinking maybe he'd have friends, and he found out he didn't have many friends. The lawfare similarities, he was charged with treason twice. So they only called Donald Trump treasonous. And while he was charged with many different things and had those 4 cases going on, he wasn't charged with treason. Burr had to go with that. Burr also comes from New York. Also, like Trump, kind of a well-to-do family. His Burr's father started Princeton University. He was a lawyer. I hope I like him because of that, but maybe other people dislike me and him because of that. So there are some similarities. I think both, you know, tried to bring a kind of a New York sense to their offices, but found out that not only their own party, or not only the opposite party, but their own party had trouble accepting them. And I think now we'll see with Trump, he's got a second chance. Burr only served 4 years as Jefferson's vice president. I think in the research I did, I would credit him with being the main factor for Jefferson winning the election. Jefferson and Burr lost their first election. They ran against John Adams. Second time they came back, Burr had really switched the votes in New York by electing new legislators at the state level. Back then, electoral votes weren't decided by the popular vote, but instead each legislature voted. So he made sure that he elected new people that would support him and Jefferson. So he had some cunningness to him, which I think Trump also has politically. It's maybe, people don't give either of them credit for this. But because of that, Jefferson was able to win. And as payback 4 years later, Burr was dumped from the ticket and a lot of his legal problems started. So that's kind of the synopsis of it. There's a lot of detail in the book about it that gives people an idea, but also some background.
For sure, for sure. We'll make sure we'll have the link to your book in the description for everybody can for sure pick it up and give it a good read. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many with Trump and how everything's going and it did seem like when his first 4 years was kind of a maybe naive of what was really going on and everybody a lot of people say that and I know I have it you know once people run for president and they win, then they really understand what's really going on in the office. They get all the people coming towards them and all you know, they actually see the power of all the lobbyists and all that. Truly, especially for him that's never held office, and I think it was a big learning lesson for him.
Yeah,
I mean, we've
I
been
think absolutely. I think this term you're seeing a different administration. And I don't know if it's, I think a lot of it is the people he is putting in those important positions, whether it's chief of staff or even the cabinet members. He's making sure he picks people that are totally with him, not Washington insiders. I mean, there can
Mhm.
be some politicians, Marco Rubio's a politician. He's been around, but I think he trusts Rubio and they seem to have a good relationship. So he's not he's not doing like last time with the Attorney General. He went with Jeff Sessions, a Washington insider, then Bill Barr, a deep state insider. This time he's not taking any chances. He's going with people that he trusts, basically, and trying to ram through some of his policies, I guess, or his ideas.
For sure, for sure. I mean, for better or worse, some people like some of them.
Right.
Some are kind of, I know we've had one on our show is, we've kind of like one moment, one thing has been, man, that's great. That's a good thing. And then the next thing is like, what are you doing? Why are we messing with that? But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
take
I
the good with
think
the bad.
right, and I think that's the other thing. If you read the book, you'll see that I conclude, and I always maybe have thought this: every politician has some good and some bad. Um, you hope that they have a lot more good than bad, and that
Hmm.
we don't get stuck with someone who's not quite up to the task, or maybe is in there for the wrong reason. And I'm sure everybody's seen that with their local politicians that they know. But even at the national level, there's some people you wonder, like, why are they surveyed? Is it just to make money? Is it for the fame, the fortune, whatever? I I think there are times you know President Trump will say something. I'm like, I don't like that idea, and I'm sure other people do. Example of that was this idea with oh, we're going to give money back to people. $2,000. I think they were talking about. Like, didn't that cause a lot of the problems? I mean, not. I mean, COVID first they did the payment, then Biden came in and did another payment. It's like pretty soon we're putting a lot of money in the economy, and that causes problems. And and you're giving money to people, quite frankly, that aren't even paying taxes. We have 53% of the people in the country don't pay income taxes. Why are they getting money back? This tax credit idea. So not a
Hmm.
big fan of that. But there's some people that probably would say that's the one thing I do like about him, and that's what makes politics interesting.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can see. I'm surprised if they're going to do it. I didn't do it um, really quick, so they could actually, maybe help to, build up the Christmas, market this winter. Give everybody $2,000. They're going to turn around and buy TVs and all kinds of stuff. It would put it into the market. It would. Um, Again, I know a lot of people was looking at it and want to say, why just pay off some more of that debt? We got trillions of dollars in debt. You're bringing all these tariffs in, which has been good. That has brought a lot of money into the country for sure. But why, why do we need to, put this money back out? I mean, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm not going to give it back to them if they do give me some money, but I'm not holding my breath either.
Well, right. That discussion I've had with some people close to me, and even when the COVID money, like, well, if they give it to me, yes, I'm going to take it. And I think this time they were even talking about a lesser income level, but, which gets into my argument about, well, if you didn't pay anything in, why are you getting money back? Um, Others would say that's who really need it. I don't know. I think the big thing is we don't have the money to be throwing out there. And are you really helping the economy, or is it a temporary solution? And
Mhm.
I think overall, most economists have always said, no, don't put money into the economy like that from the government. Give incentives that businesses create, better opportunities and people make more money and so forth. Um, but that's one of those issues they're grappling with. I think you know, Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, they've tried to figure out what to do with that, which hasn't been, good. I think
Mhm.
I think the administration has, they've had 10 years to come up with a plan. And I hate to mimic what, some of the Democrats say on that, but yeah, you have had 10 years. Now just come up with a plan and say what it is. And, they might be surprised that a lot of people support the plan, because health insurance has increased, you know, through the Obamacare years. And I would say it hasn't worked, although there were things that had to, be fixed. Even then, I thought, why not fix the things like, pre-existing condition? That seemed to be unfair. If you had a condition, now
Mhm.
you can't get insurance. And that's assuming, you have insurance. You're not just getting sick and then running to the doctor and say, now I have insurance. But so, those things had to be fixed. I think Obamacare increased the cost though. And now the Republicans or Trump don't know how to get rid of it without making an awful lot of people mad that probably depend on it.
Well, for sure, and the other side of the thing is all the money from the insurance companies now. They get all that government subsidiaries that you know, and it's making all the rates go up. I've heard a bunch of analysts say that it's the because why leave money on the table? I mean, we can keep pushing and pushing. Hey, we can do this and get more and more and more, and so that the government giving the insurance companies so much money, and that was part of the lockdown was you know the insurance lobbyists were pushing on those Democrat politicians to hold out. And, hey, get us this money, get us this money. And they want them to write just a blank check. Here you go. Here's for the insurance company, and
Right.
maybe y'all will lower the rates. Maybe you won't. And we know deep down they wouldn't. Uh, they they would just keep that pocket that money, and I think so. It's they would just pocket that money and keep on. You know, people have 5,000. Continue with people having $5,000 deductibles, uh, and which is is to the point of the insurance it needs an overhaul because people can't afford it, and if you can afford to pay for insurance, you can't afford to use it. It's a
Yeah, it
messed up
becomes
situation for a lot of families.
yeah, it becomes difficult, and unless you're lucky enough to be employed somewhere to carry group insurance and they've got a good, you know, number of employees and they've actually negotiated their plan and so forth. But if you're a small business or you're, a sole proprietor or, you I don't know. I've seen too many cases where some of the people that are complaining, you're like, okay, well, you could get insurance. You're just choosing to buy the Cadillac instead. And I think some of those same people are saying, well, let the go, Medicare for all, the Bernie Sanders idea. The problem is I think the costs are gonna go up even more, and it's gonna be the government paying for it. So
Mhm.
that hasn't it's not gonna work when you let insurance companies control it like it is now or the government control it. I think we have to figure a way where it's the capitalist society, a free enterprise, but with guardrails that people
Mhm.
are protected. And then you have the choice too. If you choose not to get insurance, okay. I I really don't understand it. Um, it's something maybe growing up we always made my parents made sure there was always insurance. Like that was 5 kids. You didn't want to something happened. That was a
Oh,
priority.
yeah.
Food, insurance, the house. No, we didn't go on vacation. Never took a vacation because we couldn't. So I think some of it's priorities. Some people have different priorities,
Mhm.
and then there are some people at the bottom of the income level that yes, that's why we have Medicaid. They're being covered because they have to be.
Mhm.
There's just no way they really can't afford it. You know,
Absolutely, and I agree with the government controlling insurance. Like, we can look to our friends to the north there. Like, you know, they got free insurance in Canada, but I have friends up there, and they'll tell you like, if you don't have money, you're not getting seen. You're gonna wait 8 months to get your first, this, and then you're gonna have to wait another year to go again. Unless you have money and you spend money, then you can get pushed up the list. But if you don't have money and you're actually trying to use the free health insurance they have, then you're going to be sitting waiting. I know somebody personally is, you know, for an ailment they're up to almost 2 years now, and it's
no,
like, what is the point of that? I mean, just
right. I
you
really
know.
don't have health care then. I mean, we often confuse health care and health insurance, but if you can't access health care, then it doesn't really matter that there's insurance. And that's the
Hmm.
same problem with England, where they have a two-tier system, really. The people that can't afford it, yes, they're going to get their health care. The people that can't are waiting for the government, to basically fit them in. And yes, you'll get it paid for when you get in there, but most of us, especially guys, right? How often do we go to the doctor? I've
Hmm.
I've only started doing it more recently in the last few years, regular physical and all that. But for certainly the first 40 years, I didn't go to the doctor unless I broke something or there was extreme pain. And, I shouldn't be proud of that, but that's the truth. And I think a lot of guys are like that. And then, if you do that, the chances of something happening, some kind of chronic disease creeping up on you is certainly greater. And if you have government coverage, when will you get the treatment you need? Will you end up with stage 3 cancer instead of stage 1 because you didn't get into the doctor because the government's running the program?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Last few years, the only time I've been to the doctor was when with my old job. We did a physical every year, and they did that. They paid for a physical every year, so we go through, and and that was it. I go do my physical, get my blood work done, and everything come out good, and thank thank goodness. But you know, and that was it, and that's the only time I've been to the doctor at all, other than probably last this cat. Uh,
New
uh,
star.
yeah, we that was it. Other than getting my wisdom teeth taken out several years ago, and other than that, just that's about it. It's a lot of,
Right.
like I said, most guys don't. They just they suffer through and they'll push through and they won't go to the doctor, and it's um because Lucy, it's, especially with family, is you gotta you know you go to the doctor, or you take care of the kids and the wife, and Lucy, we're gonna take care of the kids and the wife, and before we're gonna take care of ourselves on stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of those real failings of the male species, right? We don't think we need it. and we think we know our bodies. What's the doctor going to tell us anyhow? So we don't go. And, uh,
Hmm.
and I think overall that works out for most of us, right? Unless you are victimized by cancer or early heart disease or something, you're fine, and so we don't go until we really have to, and then maybe we start going more. Um, I certainly think once you're into the doctor, I know it becomes, they almost remind you, at least the HMO I have. It's like, you haven't done your physical for the year. Get in here. Basically, they send you messages to
Hmm.
embarrass you or something. But I'll tell you, it works. It's it's not uh, it's not the same as your wife or your girlfriend or whoever telling you, "Hey, you should go to the doctor," because that we think we know more. Like, I know myself, I don't have to go. Uh, if the doctor's office keeps telling you you need to do blood work, you need this, okay, I'll some reason I'll do it. Um,
That's what we grew up on. The doctors know better. Is and all this stuff. I think that's got that's why especially with 2020 and COVID and all that. I think that's part of the big divide. A lot of people was on two different sides because a lot of people, so many people grew up like, hey, doctor told me to do this, so I'm supposed to, and
yeah.
blanket, matter what, and so it, and then when people push back, it caused a pretty rift because it was all of a sudden people were like, wait a minute, you can't talk against the doctor, they know, and it just turned into a mess and a
Oh, yeah, I agree, and I think the problem is what we found out is sometimes they're telling us things that they're giving us their best guess. They didn't really know, but they didn't want complete panic, so they gave us the best guess. And then we being Americans, you guess if you're wrong, we're gonna come down on you on that. And,
Mhm.
we do it with politicians, we do it with, you know, sports people, right? If you're guessing the team's gonna be great and then, oh, wait a minute, they stink, we let them have it. So, yeah, with doctors or the medical community, some of the advice perhaps it was incorrect. The when you think about COVID, how we were standing 6 feet apart. Like,
Mm.
okay, you have to stand 6 feet apart. You have to wear this mask that's not really going to do anything. You know, it's you get the vaccine and you won't catch COVID. All those things prove to be wrong. Um,
Mhm.
it's just they didn't know, and they thought, hey, it doesn't do any harm. I think the harm it does is to the institution, right? That we don't hold their words as gospel anymore. We'll sit there and question it. And, now you got RFK Jr. at the federal level. He's certainly someone who disagrees with a lot of the institutional information that comes out on medicine. You know, that's it's giving people, if RFK Jr. says it, I'm not as nutty as I thought. If I'm just the guy out there thinking the same thing. And and let's face it, there are some things he is right on. You look at it and think, that it drives me crazy. You watch television, you can turn on any network. The biggest advertiser, it's pharmaceuticals. And
Oh
most
yeah.
of those, you know, half the drugs I can't pronounce, but even if I could, I don't know what they do. All I know is at the end it tells you may cause rash, um, you know, heart palpitations, sweats, and in some cases death. And I'm thinking, why would I take this? Why would I want to
Yeah,
take
for
this pill?
and that's for acne. That's
Yeah,
it may cause death, but but it'll clear up your acne, no problem. I like
exactly.
watching Prime videos and stuff, and I haven't paid for the extra where you won't have commercials and it pops up the commercials or whatever. And 75% of the commercials on Amazon Prime Video is pharmaceutical stuff, and I know, and I laugh at them. I kind of like watching them just because I'm like I want to hear the end and see what the terrible side effects are, and if I can laugh and like and in comparison, like there's no way I would try to take something like this that you know because all of our bodies are different and reacts to different things, and all of a
Hmm.
sudden, I'm in the hospital for I know people that's you know taking stuff and had severe reactions, and I'm like, there's no way I would take this, especially for acne or something like that, if it's going to cause me harm.
Right.
I just rather deal with the acne.
Well, yeah, there was I think it was Accutane years ago that they said causes like not only depression, but may cause you to become violent. And wait a minute, violence? Like you have a mental breakdown now, what good does that do when you lash out and do something stupid? It's like, well, I took Accutane. Yeah, that's not going to be a good defense in court. You're going for, murder, or you beat someone up or whatever the case was. And I know some people tried to use that defense years ago. I don't even know if that's on the market anymore. But there's all these pills have something, and I know Kennedy has raved about getting that off the television, that there shouldn't be able to advertise. I think it's just one other country, it might be none now, that even allow pharmaceuticals to be advertised. You
Hmm.
know, and I know, you know, America's unique, right? But it seems like it could be doing more harm than good. I mean, there could be some good out of it. I think the people taking what is it, the GLP, you know, that to lose weight that they used to just use for diabetes, and it
Hmm.
does seem to work. There's an awful lot of people that have lost weight, especially in Hollywood. I mean, they'll deny it and say all of a sudden they were working out, but nobody's going to tell me Lizzo was working out. I'm just I'm not buying that. You know,
Yeah.
you
They,
put the needle in you, and if, I don't know what the long-term effects are on that, and I suppose nobody does.
that's the scary part, a lot of this Ozempic and all that. You
Yeah.
really don't know what the 20-year you know thing that's going to be like that. I had a friend of mine. His I want to he he was like 5'8", five right now, like, but he was 400 pounds. I think he got up to like 420 at some point, and
Wow.
his cousin went under surgery and got um went under the knife for weight loss, and he died in the hospital because of it, and it woke him up, and so he worked his tail off and got down. I think he's down to 240 right now, and
Wow.
so you can do it. It ain't easy, it is
No.
hard work, but so everybody wants that instant gratification, instant, like, oh, I can, yeah, if I could take a little pill and drop 100 pounds, it's like, but what
Right.
is it going to do to you when, I've heard rumors and people talking about losing bone density and all kinds of stuff, and I don't know, um it's scary if that is really happening. It's like, man, y'all own it for just a little bit longer, and then your health is worse in the long run than it was in the beginning. It's pretty scary doing that.
Well, that's true, and I don't know if you have to keep taking it. I assume you have to adjust your lifestyle after you've lost the weight. Otherwise, won't you just gain it back?
Uh, for sure, it's like even the people that had the surgery for like the stomach, like if you I know people that actually just went back to eating just whatever and actually opened their stomach back up because and stretched it back out because they've just eaten so much. You have to cut back. You have to turn around and change your eating habits and health habits, and uh,
Yeah.
you know get out, work out, and at least walk something.
Yeah. And I think probably eating, like we're all guilty of, you could probably eat less, but until I don't know, until your body adjusts, maybe. We all
Hmm.
think, oh, we got to keep eating. And it's like, you really don't. But it's hard to stop if you've been doing it for so long. And, when you get into that, heck, if you're 300 pounds, it's a problem. unless you're playing football every Sunday. Even then, those guys tend to lose weight when they leave football, for health purposes.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, it's hard to carry three spins around, for the rest of your life.
Oh yeah. That's a lot of pressure on the joints and the feet, and you know,
Yeah.
and it's just one of them things. Like, yeah, it's so much better. Like you've seen movie star and wrestling star Dave Batista. He dropped down like 60 pounds.
Hmm.
Before he could be, just feel healthier and move around because it's like he just got tired of carrying all that bulk on it. Um, I can imagine. I've never been super big, but I can only imagine though. I've been blessed with good genes, and then I teach martial arts too, so I stay pretty active for a
Oh, do
46
you
year old.
teach adults or children or both?
Both.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got kids and adults, and then I have like MMA fighters. I travel around for MMA fights and all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it's amazing because you know that really took off, the whole MMA thing, and how much people. We shouldn't be surprised that they love it. A lot of us love boxing, right? That
hmm
yeah, we love battles, and it's just, but it's brutal. The people that are fighting, you know, it's probably the most brutal sport I've seen. Would you agree?
um, that bare knuckle boxing though is pretty.
Oh,
It's that
okay.
that's
I guess there's always something.
Yeah, that bare knuckle boxing. I've been to a bunch of those events. Cornering fighters, and every one of the. I've been to a lot of MMA fights, and most people, have, maybe some stitches or something. But every time I've been to a bare knuckle, somebody left it on the ambulance. Every time.
Wow.
Uh, uh,
Yeah,
but
that's yeah, there's a reason to have gloves.
yeah,
Yeah.
they got nothing. They just got tape over their hand and a little gauze and for the wrist control, and that's it. Everything's bare and kind of old fashioned way, but it's wild.
Yeah, I don't think they could pay me enough for that.
Now I'm good on that too. I don't want to.
All
I'm
right.
good.
There's a lot of things I'll do for money, but I don't think that's one.
It had to be a lot of money.
Right.
Then I'm gonna try to knock them out in the first 5 seconds, and then
Right.
so
It's
I
like
won't be.
I'm going to do this once, and then I'm never
Yeah,
doing it again. It's like,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. But speaking of MMA, we're gonna have the um, UFC there at the White House, and they're gonna have that
yeah,
big event. That's gonna be interesting to see how they do all that, and uh,
yeah.
wish
What's
Walt even
the?
have it.
Are they going to do it like on the lawn? Do you know? I've seen it, but
Yeah, yeah. I think they're gonna do it the long. I seen I seen they're gonna be only gonna be like 4,000 people going to be able to be there. Which I seen Dana White saying he's like I don't even know who's gonna be allowed to come. He's like I have no idea. It's one of them things. But and of course, I mean, I guess the security and everything had to be up and up, and
yeah,
um, being right there at the White House and everything, and be on the lawn, and so. But yeah, it's that's crazy. Which we've had all kinds of different events at the White House over the years, so. But it's interesting to see have a fight there at the White House. It's gonna be a little
yeah.
something different.
You think we can get a couple politicians to jump in there,
That would be
battle it
kind of
out?
cool. There's several we could be interesting to see. I know they got some age on them, so it's kind of it might be to
Right.
the death kind of match. I don't
Yeah, that might not be a good idea. We don't want someone dying in the ring. But
know.
I mean, Dana White's done a great job, um, and I know Trump's a big fan. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. They're going to do that, but I think there's things you could complain about that make sense to complain about. That to me, it's kind of like this idea of the ballroom. I'm I'm fine with it. Go ahead, put a new ballroom in. I didn't have a problem when Obama was putting in, a basketball court. All right, whatever. I,
hmm
you know, doesn't make it. And that was really for himself. That
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
for dignitaries. I, I I'm guessing that you wouldn't get Netanyahu or someone to play a game of one-on-one with them. I'm just guessing.
I imagine not. Uh, he got other things he's worried about. But yeah, the
Right.
ballroom and and it's one of them things like everybody else has done is, um, you know, this has got private funding in it. It's and Trump's funding. It's not any government money in it. Everything else, like Obama stuff or anybody else has ever done anything to the White House. They've always upgraded it and always done upgrades to it.
Hmm.
I think this is just a way, another way to complain, and I don't know if they keep it up on the and just another way to I don't know. I guess maybe another way to divide too. I kind of believe because
Yeah,
distract us from other stuff there because there's so
I,
much
I
stuff going on at the same time.
I think that hits on an important point, though. It's when you're the opposition, whether it's at the local level or the level that we see, with Trump and the Democrats. I think the opposition is like you got to pick and choose what you're doing. You can't just be against everything because then you're not gaining anybody. Maybe you're exciting your base. You probably are, but you're certainly not gaining new people who are going, "Hey, you you made a good point there," because the next time you're going to make an idiotic point, and arguing over the ballroom that's being paid by others seems idiotic. It doesn't do any good for your. Why not just let that one ride and then
Hmm.
argue with them over. If you want to argue about the Venezuelan boats being, blown up, or something with Israel and Gaza or Ukraine. Okay, you could have a debate about that, but I don't know. You've got the ballroom being paid for, as you say, by others. Their complaint then morphs into, well, they want something out of it. Well, the people that are putting the money up for that, they're already getting something. They're they're all insiders with both parties, and they're they're getting what they want. They're doing fine. It's it's not
Oh
like
yeah,
their nephew's getting a job.
and
So
I'm sure there's a tax credit too on top of everything else. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, if you can donate to something, you can deduct it. Why not?
Hmm. This it's better to give it away than have to just pay it to the government for sure, either one
Right.
way or another.
So this way they look good, and
Yeah,
I mean, you see, everybody does it at some point, but especially if you have, unbelievable money.
absolutely. And it's like one of them. I agree with you. It's one of them things where it's like it's like like if you do with your wife or girlfriend, you gotta pick your battles. So you can't argue about every little detail.
Yeah.
If you do, it's not going to be you're not going to have a happy life. It's you got to pick and choose your battles. Like all right, I'll let that go, and the things
Right.
that really matter. And like you said, like the whole stuff of Venezuela and stuff. They're moving boats and stuff over there, and man, it's looking grim. I can for sure. People need to be talking about that, but ballroom, you know, it's something they kind of need anyway because they hold dignitaries over there. They need a place where they can be and everything right there on the at the White House. Why not? It's
Right.
and I
And I
mean,
think you really arguing over silliness doesn't move your party's, needle, so to speak. You're not
mhm.
gaining anybody. I think you're at best you're just getting your people to go, yeah, go get them. But you're arguing about everything. That's a bit much.
For sure. And I don't know. It seems like on even on both sides. I call it the extremes on the left and extremes on the right. Those are the ones that are just no matter what happens, they're just up in arms and screaming, and it's like why in the world calm calm down a little bit, just bring it down a notch, and call out the hypocrisies, but don't just don't beat everything. It don't make sense, but matter what, like they said that, Trump could find a cure for cancer, and they would, well, I'm not taking it. He he can say, "Don't air, breathing the air will keep you living," and they'll try to stop breathing just because
Well,
Trump said it. It's to the some mentality of some folks right now. Like,
well,
uh,
right. They had. Did you see? God, it's probably a month or two ago now with the Tylenol issue, where I think RFK Jr. had talked about, that it causes certain problems, and you had these young women who were pregnant on the internet, social media, downing a bunch of Tylenol. It's like I wouldn't down a bunch of Tylenol even if I had a headache. I might take one, two. You don't take a bottle. What are you doing? And
yeah, so lady lost her child over it and everything.
yeah,
Um,
it,
and
it's but it's indicative of what people do in opposition to ideas rather than thinking a bit and saying, wait a minute, I don't know if they're right or wrong on that issue. Let's see. Let's let it play out. Maybe they've got a point. You can't just dismiss every idea that the opposition has and say, well, I'm going to battle it and say they're wrong without knowing. You don't know if it's right or wrong. And, you know, eh, too often, I think both parties get into those stances where they're arguing, you know, just to argue in some ways. It,
uh, absolutely, it does seem that way. And it's with the with the Tylenol stuff and everything. I mean, there's some Bibles. I'm sure it's a little combination of I'm sure when it's all said and done, we will find out that it's a combination of a lot of things. Our foods. We know our foods are different. For the ones that looked into it, like all of our foods are different than they are in other places in the world, like Europe, and
hmm
they don't even allow most of the stuff we have. It's like you said earlier, like United States is unique, and it's we're on a little thing, but we allow so much crazy stuff. Like the commercials about drugs and on TV, we allow all that stuff, and we allow um, all these extra chemicals and stuff, and it's slowly coming out. Now we had the stuff with the Campbell's soup, VP come out right before Thanksgiving. That's a good time. I'm
right. Well, it's amazing. Like this guy, it talks about the problems with the soup, and assuming he's right about it, then why didn't you do anything? You're in a major position there, and you were okay with just putting anything in a can. It's kind of sick.
oh yeah. I mean, when you look into it, like a lot of that, it's like, man, like how do these people sleep at night knowing that they're poisoning people? And we've talked about it on on the podcast and stuff. Is like, you know, I know the upper up don't eat the same things we do.
Yeah.
They're not going to, they're not going to Kroger's or whatever and buying the same food that we're buying. Absolutely. There's no way, and it
Well,
kind of
right.
showed when he came out and said what he said, it kind of showed that. And, um,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, you know, if you're lower income, I mean, this is one of the problems they've had with like SNAP benefits and so forth. And people, well, we don't want you buying junk food. Almost, you know, big government telling you, they're now your daddy. You can't have certain foods, or you can't. It's like you shouldn't have it though. Honestly, they're right, but how do I guess the benefit is we're giving you the money. It's like your parents when you were a kid go buy, you know, whatever. You can't just go buy McDonald's. They wanted you to actually have a
mm,
real meal. It's like, oh, okay. Um, but it does become that. I think part of the problem with all of this though, and it's in the book too about the media. Um, as someone who I owned my own newspapers, I was a reporter and editor for a small paper. And journalism has changed so much. I trace it back to the Watergate time when,
you see, and if you look into it now, and like more people are like you do, all the different all the medias are owned by a small group of companies, and so and they own them all, and we've seen now that whatever um, agenda or whatever they're told to say. They're going to put it out there. They don't. We've seen them clips where all the newspaper, uh, different places are saying exact word for word. You guarantee they're reading off, a sheet. Um, and it's crazy to see that, a lot of people has called it out for years, but now it's, more and more open, and which I've seen them talking. They get so much, a lot of the politicians are talking. I've seen Hillary, and I've seen others talk, like we need to get people back watching mainstream media again because so many people aren't anymore. And um, because of, just, more people looking towards social media and, and, and then podcasts because, a lot of them are, just, rather look at other places because, we know they've lied to us so many times. Why now? We've lost so many numbers. Their viewership is down so much because people are seeing it now. More and more people are seeing it, and you know, and losing the only places you see, like, I don't know anybody that actually just turns on CNN anymore and watches it. If you go into places, you go into hospitals or something like that, they might have CNN on. I think that's probably a lot of their viewership. Nursing homes, probably. you know, um, and that's where they're getting their viewership. They're getting, and their numbers show that they're showing they got an older population on their viewership. They don't have any young, and so they're gonna have to, they got a hard battle to fight to get back up to where they, people trust them again for sure. Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me, being on and wanting to be on, and I'll make sure I get all your links and stuff like that. Anything in the description for your book and all that stuff. I want to make sure we can get all of our followers to go there and check out your book and uh, and pick it up for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and like I said, y'all make sure y'all hit them likes and subscribe, and hit the check out his links. Check out the links also in the description for all our sponsors, and as always, y'all keep on keeping on. Appreciate you, sir.